What's going on, everybody? We made a big purchase in the reloading department. Yeah, what could it be? What could it be? Oh, there's a sneak peek right there. There it is. Annealing Made Perfect. This is the Mark 1. I didn't go with the Mark 2. The Mark 2 is $1,500 after when you get the taxes and you buy all the pilots, things like that. Maybe someday. Mark 1s are cheaper now. I found this one for 500 bucks. This does not have Aztec mode in it yet. I may buy that separately. But this has been on my list for a long time. These were $1,000 retail. I found this one for 500 bucks. I think it's worth it. 1,000 bucks is pretty steep, and that's why I held off. I was salt bathing for the longest time. Salt bathing worked. I never split a neck. I was able to get full life out of my primer pockets on Norma brass. Did that for 1.5 years. So I know AMP came out with a study that says a salt bath annealing does not work. Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you want to get your primer pocket use out of your brass, it worked for me. So is it as good as an induction AMP annealing? Probably not. There's a lot of ways to anneal your brass. You just got to pick a poison and go with it. AMP's always been on my list to buy. I would also like to get a Girard case trimmer one day. That's on the list. And then probably, get rid of this RCBS light, which has been working pretty well. I have to baby it, but, if you can get an AMP, on an upgrade powder thrower and a Girard case trimmer, you're doing really well. That complements the Forester, press down there. So it's kind of a Rockstar reloading setup. And one of these days, I'm going to clean this bench off and get things properly organized. I keep having to move stuff around. You know how it is. Basically, a number 2 Lee shell holder. Whoops, clumsy. Put that back in there like that. This is Peterson large primer, XC, 6XC brass. We're using program 90. You get that off their website. We're using pilot number 50. So based on your caliber, you have to buy these pilots. These are sold separately. They're like 20 bucks each. I'm also going to do 6.5 Creedmoor. I'll have to get a pilot for that. And I'll also have to get a pilot for 450 Bushmaster. I reload that caliber as well for deer hunting. This thing is painless. I plugged it in, I read the manual. You put the shell in like that, you push this button, and when that orange dot goes away, you're done. Pull it out. Let's see if you guys can see the anneal marks. It's about as perfect as you could ever want. Most of the heat stays in the neck and a little bit migrates up toward the shoulder. So they've kind of got this down to a science. So I can do 7 cases a minute. I just timed myself. If I went really fast, I could probably do 8. So you could do 200. You could do 200 cases of brass in no time, and it's done perfectly each time. You just can't screw it up. I was pretty skeptical when I saw AMP's post about how salt bath annealing, isn't ideal. It's not optimal. Well, no, it's not optimal, but it works. I'm not disagreeing with them really. They're in the business to sell their product, and I'll never fault anyone for doing that. They've got some really good data out there when it comes to brass hardness. And now, every time I come back home from a match or from the range, I tumble my brass, clean it up a little bit, and dry it off, and I'm gonna anneal it every single time. Unless I'm in a huge time crunch and I just don't have time, I can get away with not annealing one time. I can put 2 firings on it. I can put 3 firings on it. But for consistency, you know, it's best to do it every time if you have time. I mean, it's just that easy. I'm doing this one-handed, holding a phone, videoing, and I'm still making some pretty good progress here. So what's different from the Mark 1 versus Mark 2? There were some comments about the Mark 1 possibly overheating after like 300 rounds. I mean, there's a little bit of heat generating right here, not a lot. Probably depends on the size of brass case that you're doing. It probably depends on how hot the ambient environment is. I'm down in the basement, it's like 60 degrees down here. So the amp's probably loving this. It's staying nice and cool. Even in the summertime, it stays cool down here. So I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with overheating. The Mark II has upgraded fans. And I'll show you the cooling fan on this one. There's just one, and then there's an outlet down there. The Mark II has two fans, I believe, up here on the corners, and then I think it exits somewhere else. The inductor, I don't know if that's the right term, is beefed up, so the Mark II can do 50 BMG. This one cannot quite go that high. I can get up to some pretty big calibers with it, but I can't quite go to 50 BMG. Well, I don't own one, it's not a big deal. If you own a 50 BMG, money's probably no object to you, and you're probably just gonna go buy the Mark II anyway. So, what else is different? The Mark II comes with Aztec. That's the analyzing software package that I'd have to buy extra with this one. That's kind of a nice add-on, but guys, I'll tell you what, 1,500 bucks, that's a lot of money. 1,500 bucks buys a lot of brass. You know what I mean? You could skip this whole annealing thing and just buy $1,500 worth of brass, you know? I kind of like the peace of mind that I am getting the most accurate neck tension every single time. I want to run my brass until the primer pockets are no good. I feel like I actually got the mileage out of them. So, you know, that's some things to consider. I know some guys that they just don't believe in annealing at all, and that's fine. If you don't want to anneal, don't. I don't think you absolutely have to. There's guys that go to matches that don't anneal and they still score well and they still win. So, you know, it's still about the Indian and not the equipment. If there's really much more to add to it. You know, I kind of feel like it doesn't matter what caliber. If I switch to a different caliber, like, I probably won't. I'm probably going to stay with the 6XC for a while. But I can anneal anything, you know. This machine has a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of latitude built into the software. And that's one of the most attractive points. And for 500 bucks, this to me was a buy, you know. 1,000 bucks, that's steep, you know. I'm probably going to shy away if I got to spend $1,000. But for 500, I feel like I got a pretty good bargain on this. This was technically a second-hand unit, but the power cord was still in the cellophane plastic. So I don't think it ever was used. So I had a close friend told me about this deal, and I appreciate it. If he's watching, he knows who he is. Really appreciate it. You kind of made my life easier. So yeah, next time I have any gear upgrades, I'm assuming it'll probably be a Girard trimmer. I've thought about getting the new Frankford Arsenal IntelliDropper. It's like 200 bucks, and I think it's an upgrade over the RCBS Lite powder dispenser. This is what I'm talking about. This thing works. I kind of have to manually baby it along. You know, I'm just kind of looking for speed and accuracy when it comes to powder throwing. And you can get into some serious money there. The FX120, the Prometheus, gosh, there's some really nice powder throwers on the market, but you're going to pay for them. I don't think I'm going to find one of those for 500 bucks like I found one of these. So if you guys have any tips on the amp, or if you have any questions, comment below. I'll do my best to get back to you. This channel is not super popular. It's just kind of my own sloppy broadcast. So one of these days I may clean up the the video footage and try to do something a little more professional. I just don't really have time right now. So this is as good as it gets. Well, anyway, you guys have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.